How we doing, kids? It's Blackjack with 396 guitars. We have an Ibanez XPT 700 on the bench today. It's kind of an odd looking guitar. Let's get to work. You'll see what I'm talking about. Pretty neat instrument. The client that brought it in was asking about a setup, and he says, "Oh, it's not really buzzing or anything." Well, we checked it out, and sure enough, it's got some love taps on it. He said he dropped it and put a couple of chips in it, but I checked it out a little bit with him. As usual, we always start in the same place. I'm going to show you and illustrate what's happening here. And it doesn't take much to understand. That's pretty solid. The neck is in a back bow. He has not been playing it. I think it was either gifted to him or he recently acquired it. And the neck is in a really bad back bow, so we're definitely going to have to address that. Now, before I get too far, I want to check out the electronics. We've got a loose three-way switch. I'm going to try to get that situated for him. I want to check the electronics. The pots seem really, really stiff. Not sure if they're just on there too far. They don't seem to be rubbing, they just seem stiff. Let's check it out, because I hate to do all that work and have to find out something else is wrong with it. Neck. It's got the Marzio pickups in it. Bridge. Seems like everything's working. Middle. Okay. I think we're okay there. The output jack seems solid, but we definitely have a problem with the three-way switch. Let's get that done right now before we move on to anything else. Loose button there. I'm going to restring it, so I'm going to take this cover off because I know I'm going to have to do something with the Floyd Rose. That's part of the setup. You want that to be level and stable before you hand it back. And I took this one in because, especially with a Floyd Rose and a locking nut, I like to get all the work done and then let it settle overnight and double check it the next day. That's our output jack. I'm going to make sure that that's tight. It's a barrel jack. Let's just make sure it's tight. They do have a tendency to get loose. We don't want that. No, it's nice and snug. I like that. That's good. Got quite a few guitars in the shop. This is the easiest one today, or at least I think it's going to be the easiest one. I've got some other problem instruments that I have to delve into later. Let's do that three-way. This one should be a straightforward setup and restring, and then we'll check it tomorrow. This is just preliminary stuff. When I notice that stuff, I want to do it first so I don't forget. Because once I get into the rest of it, sometimes I'll forget. Human, you know. I don't want to forget it. Right now while I'm thinking of it. yeah, it's really wonky. I'm going to spray these pots. Just because we can and we should. So, I need to get my spanner wrench out. Where did I put it? So, kind of you want that to be in this orientation, not straight up and down. As you're strumming, you want to be able to operate it. It's actually pretty good right where it's standing. So hold the back. And snug it up. Yeah, I like that. Now it's solid. That's a good way to twist wires too. Don't just tighten them up, because all you're going to end up doing is spinning wires in there. Like it. So I guess they're just a little stiff, but they're working. So I'm not going to get in a twist over that. He did not give me the whatchamajigger for that. Guess we're going to have to operate the Floyd Rose. Actually, it doesn't say Floyd Rose anywhere on it, and usually they do. It says Ibanez on it. Usually it says by Floyd Rose or something, but whatever. I digress. Before I do anything, I want to tune it up, and I want to get string tension on it and adjust the truss rod, because we are putting the same gauge strings he said that's on it. I'm not 100% sure. What do we got? What do we got? Oh no, these are really light strings, and we're going to a much heavier gauge. So yeah, definitely going to have to do some adjustment on the Floyd Rose. So it doesn't make any sense to adjust that truss rod just yet. Let's de-string it. And get a block for there. I think this will fit in there. Yeah, that'll work. That should work. We're going to de-string it and move forward. So stand by while I get the strings off. And I'll be right back. So strings are off. We're going to clean up the frets and oil the board before we get past that point. Real simple and easy operation, and you should do this at least once a year. I do it almost every time on every customer's guitar. Get them polished up, get them shiny. Get a chance to do it when the strings are off, do it. Nice and snug. I think that's 3, is it? Oh, that's loose. Oh, they go from the underneath, I see. Okay. I'll check it when we get it over. Oil. Many of you have seen this procedure. I'm going to show you this time. Call it fret dressing, call it whatever you want. This is linseed oil for the board, the fretboard. It helps clean up and polish the frets slightly. It'll take some of the tarnish off. And it conditions the wood. If it's a clear coated board, you know, you can skip this step. Doesn't take much, but it helps a lot. I'm going to pause while I get this oil off and continue polishing the frets one more step. And I'll be right back. So today's string of choice is, these are pretty heavy, 50 to 11. The ones that came off were 42 to 10 or 43 to 10, give or take. So these are considerably heavier, and they're going to definitely put more string tension on the floating bridge. No problem. We're going to address it as it comes. Cut the ball end off, place it, and snug it. By the way, snug means snug. You don't have to crank it down. It will catch. They were too tight when I loosened them, just for point of interest. String's going to live in that peg. We go about a peg past. Bend it. And insert it. Stop at the bend. And go to winding. Yeah, it's a pretty fat string. Make sure they're under the retainer bar. Get up there. There we go. Just the tension. That's all you got to do. Of course, all the same rules apply. You want to have a couple of wraps on there. At least, well, the first one is above the string hole, and every successive wrap goes below it. You want at least 1 to 2 wraps underneath. Sometimes it works out that way, sometimes it doesn't. But do your best. Neatness counts. I'm not going to show you this entire bloody procedure. It's just as sure as God made little green apples. I'm going to stab myself at least once before I get done with this, because these things cutting them and trying to wind them through that left-handed stock, it always gives me trouble. So stand by. So this is where it gets tricky. We are tuning this guitar to drop C, which is C, G, C, F, A, D, starting lower to higher. Even even dropping the tuning down, the bridge is standing tall. I mean, it's way, way, way up. So we definitely need to come in on the Floyd Rose, the trim springs. So we're going to go in. I'm going to go in 1.5 turns to start and see if we get any stability there. Now, much of this, that one's trying to tighten down like it doesn't want to go in any farther. Oh boy. It is definitely stopping right there. We may have to put more springs in here. I don't think I'm going to get enough. This is where it gets tricky always. That helped. But I don't think we're going to get it. Yeah, it's still trying to go higher. We need to get more pull. So to accomplish that, we have to put at least one spring in here. I have to see where. I'm going to have to pause. I got to go get into the parts bin because this screw stopped turning. In other words, it doesn't want to go any further, and I don't want to force it. It should be able to go in farther. I may have to pull it out and fix that hole. But it's got a stop bar. This type of bridge has a stop bar screwed on to hold the end of the springs. It doesn't need to be on there. No fender ever had one. So I'm going to pause quickly while I go try to source out another spring here. This really needs to pull it in. Hold on. So you can see I added 2 more springs here. This is kind of a common practice when you're not getting enough tension to overcome the string tension. And it instantly pulled the bridge down to a more level condition. Let's see what happens when we tune it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think now we're going to have adjustment at the claw. And it's good. This process is going to take quite a while, and that's why I really was kind of insistent with the client that it stays with me at least overnight, because it's going to take a while for it to find equilibrium. I'll go through this process probably 20 times before I finally find out where I want it to be. So we lowered the tension quite a bit, and now we're getting a level bridge here just by adding those springs. Where ultimately it'll land, I don't know, and that's where the fine tuning comes in with the spring screws underneath, the claw screws. Because if it continues to go down, what will happen is the springs will overtake the string tension, and it'll actually start to pull the bridge farther down. Well, let's find out. Because right now my block is holding it where it can't move anymore. It's probably already trying to go down more. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. Yep. So we need to have less spring tension, which means now we can back out the screws and let the strings take over. And this process is hit and miss until you get to your equilibrium. And what you have to keep checking is that the bridge becomes level with the body. You don't want it too far down or too far sticking up. You want it level. and it does take time. You know, we're definitely going to have to keep drawing these out. So I'm going to pause while I go through this process for a little while, and this could take quite a bit of time. Obviously, I'm not going to do all of that on film. It's even possible that I'd have to take one of these springs out. Probably I would take the middle one out, but we'll see, so stand by. So off camera, probably 10 more times adjusting this, but what is now finally starting to happen is equilibrium between string tension and spring tension. And that's key. You hear me talk about it every time we have a floating bridge guitar, and that is critical. Otherwise you won't ever have tuning stability. And I did take one spring out. That we had to leave an extra spring in. It came with 3 in it, but with the heavier strings, I put 4 in there. I took the center one out. And that's trial and error. You go through trial and error, but what you're trying to achieve is this being flat with the deck of the guitar. Right? So you have up and down motion with that, and it will come back into equilibrium each time you activate the trem system. What I'm doing right now is adjusting this because, damn, it is backbowed and it's time to start. It pulled some of the backbow out. It's time to start doing some of the other final adjustments on this guitar. So the heavier strings did pull some of the backbow out, but I'm sure that it's going to need an adjustment. Yeah, it's still super tight. And just going through the tuning procedure, I could hear the strings buzzing. That's no good. I'm hoping there's a 2-way in this. And there is a 2-way truss rod. So I got a good 1.5 turns on it. Let's check that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just very responsive. I'm going to go back and put just a little more tension on it. Take some of the relief out. I want it a little closer now. Very responsive truss rod. That's good news. That's always good news. That's what we want. Just scraping the string at the 7th fret. 12 thousandths of an inch at the 7th fret, standard. You know, I'm gonna keep tuning it and tuning it. That may need another adjustment. We don't know until the strings get to where they're really gonna stay. And this procedure could go on and on and on, and that's why we keep them overnight. It's getting closer. It's going out less and less and less. But because it was so far out of whack when it came in, that this part of it's going to take quite a while. But now that we have our neck relief set, we can go ahead and adjust our string height, which is, you know, the saddle adjustment, the bridge adjustment here, and our intonation we can check. This should have gained us a little bit of string height, probably too much, yeah. So you gotta go down. You gotta go down. Quite a bit. A little bit more. I want to see just above 4, close to 5 on the bass side. I don't know if I'm in the movie or not. It was really high. When it came in, it was super, super low because of the back bow and the neck. And the strings were like a 2, 3. So this is all gonna be adjustment. The only thing I like about a Floyd Rose type bridge, adjusting this bridge up or down does not affect the tuning. Very little anyway. Let's see where we're at there. And then after that, it's a matter of intonation. Beautiful. We got right at almost 5/64 on the bass side and just over 4/64 on the treble side, and that's where I set them. That adjustment will not affect any of the other adjustments. I'm just curious if we're going to get an accurate intonation reading. Yep, and that's going to be problematic because you might be able to push it back farther. With this lower tuning, the intonation is going to be a little screwy. They're all sharp. I'm going to have to. Intonation is a real bitch on these. That one's all the way back. That one's all the way back. That one and that one are all the way back. So these two are okay. These two are all the way, they're as far in as they can go almost. And so is the, well, what would be the D string. It's actually the C string now. Middle C. That one's not too bad. We definitely have to adjust the low C, G string, and maybe the F. Oh yeah, I can tell by the saddles. These are. It's too short, so they have to go in. Off camera, I'm going to set the intonation because it's really a pain in the butt on this guitar because you have to loosen all the string tension, pull the string out of the way, loosen the saddle, make an adjustment, and then tighten it back down. And I'm not going to do that on camera. It's just it's too lengthy a process. So one last thing we're going to do is adjust his pickup height, which is, that one's a mile away and this one's too close. So lower this one and raise this one. too low with that one. All in all, I think it's going to respond okay. It needed a lot of adjustment, just between head and springs, and now I got to do the intonation, which is just all screwy. And I have a feeling that it has a lot to do with the oddball tuning, but we'll get it. I'm just going to do it off camera because that will literally take me an hour to do. And then this guitar will be ready to settle overnight and go back to the client in the morning. Floyd Rose, not my favorite, over-engineered. If this was a Fender, I would have been done an hour ago. Yep, I can live with that. It's staying in tune for the most part. So I'm going to have to booger with that because half of them have to be intonated. So that's what we're going to take care of next off camera. So it's Blackjack with 396 guitars. We have the Ibanez Space Age guitar on the bench. Needed a lot of work. I mean, most of it you saw in this video. We're going to do the intonation off camera. It just takes too long. And then it'll settle overnight. I'll recheck all the adjustments in the morning after it has time to kind of equalize, and it'll be ready to go back. We'll talk soon. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you dig what I'm doing.